Hello, stellar people, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Trey, and welcome back. Artist Bootcamp for today, Thursday, January 30th, where we will go over shapes, heads and hands, mannequin, anatomy, sculpture, and ending with gesture. Lot to do, so let's go. Shapes is up first, and our usual is simple shapes, but we make a new layer, and today we're going to be using red. B for the brush tool, and we just go over our shapes. Nothing too strenuous. This is like our stretching exercise. It's not the most strenuous or even focused thing that we're going to do, but we want to get our hand and our eyes in line with trying to do things that we want them to do. This is just an exercise. Hand-eye coordination. And the basic shapes are the circle, the square, and the triangle. While the rectangle, which I'm doing here, is more or less a modified square. And we just keep moving our hands because we're trying to get a little bit better every day, a little bit better every day. And we know that it's not going to just happen overnight. We're just not going to become fantastic artists just because we want it. We have to put the work in. And this is us putting the work in. So that is simple shapes. Now, we have been doing this practice where we're trying to move these shapes in space. Moving shapes in space, because in the real world, everything, well, we move, so our perspective on things also move. So in the case of a circle, right, if we have a circle, a badly drawn circle, moving it up in space, right, if it's going to be flat, like say it's a piece of cardboard, and on the side it has like a standee, and it's like this on the side, and we're looking at it from the front. If it falls backwards, say the standee is defective and it falls backwards in space, it's going to make an ellipse with some slight foreshortening. Right? A circle becomes an ellipse. It goes farther back. That dramatic ellipse gets more emphasized before it becomes a flat line. Right? So it's receding in space or falling. A better example, I guess, would be the square. Since I can't seem to draw an ellipse worth a darn. So falling backwards in space. Right? The base would be the same, but this would be slightly foreshortened because of perspective. It's falling away from us, but the bottom is still relatively closer to us than this top part. It's falling backwards in space, and it becomes more dramatic as it falls until it's thump, flat. Falling forward in space, the top would be more, right, it's getting closer to us as it falls forward. But again, the same principle applies where it gets more dramatic as it falls. And that thump falls flat. I like doing this. This is, I don't know, it relaxes me, I guess. Maybe a rectangle is very much like the square, where again, the base would be the same, right, as here. It's just falling backwards in space. Falling backwards in space. Until thump, it's on the flat on the floor. And if it falls forward, again, same rule applies as the square. It's just falling towards us. And then whoop. And the triangle, we can move it up and down in space. But it looks like it's arrows moving to me. If that, right, again, base is the same. Well, janky base, but still, the same principle applies. Just gets more dramatic in the angle until whoop, that cardboard triangle is down. Triangle down. And falling forward looks like a Dorito chip coming at you. Shouldn't laugh and draw because it makes my lines worse than they usually are. So that's just simple shapes moving in space. So let's move on to 3D shapes. 3D. And so 3D, we have the cube, the cylinder, the cone, the pyramid, and the sphere. And all of these objects are taking up space. And with light, say light hits things, gives things dimensionality. Like a light hitting this sphere, there would be a highlight here. It would increase in shadow coming towards, and then there would be a shadow, a cast shadow. And then if there's bounced light, like if it's a metal ball, there would be bounce, and it was on like a, let's say a red mat. Bounce light would be bouncing onto and making a slight highlight here of red. So light and a figure in space gives it dimensionality. If light was hitting this pyramid, this face would be the most lit, less lit, opposite side less lit, and then this far side would be even more so less lit, so it's more shadowed. If it's a cylinder, the light hits the top plane, and then there would be shadow in various, depending on how the angle of the light. There will be a band of light, and then it would go shadow, 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 shadow. So we try to keep that in mind as we do these shapes. But what I like about 3D shapes is that they become, like this box can be a building. So windows, I don't know. Or it could be dice, or anything with a cubic form, it would apply. These are janky boxes. It's not terribly strenuous. It's just, again, we're trying to think as we draw. If you ever do a drawing and you go, hey, that looks like something else, you know? Or clouds that look like bunnies and stuff like that. Trying to train our eyes to see this thing as other things. And if you group them together, they could become other things. All it takes is some imagination. Let's make these objects in space. And there's that circle, cylinder top, the ellipse. And if you could see through it, which try to see through things. This is the bottom, an ellipse, straight lines. The cones, but again, it has an ellipse at the bottom. And a pyramid, well, if a pyramid is like, and that square bottom, yeah, line. So we try to see through things to give it the idea that, oh, a square base, triangle sides. Now let's try to move these things in space. And today, let's see. Ooh, here, I'll do this. I'll knock it back a bit. Because I drew on the layer I was not supposed to draw on. And this is why we make new layers. Yep. But it's all good. I'll erase it later. So if you have, say, a path brush tool. New layer, let's do that, yes. So if we have a path, right, and we want to move this, I don't know, say sphere along this path, and we could say, okay, this is farther back than say this, right? And it rolls along and it gets bigger and bigger, right? And there's just like a pathway. But we could also do it with the square, where it's farther back in space and time, and say there's a 1 dot, a 2 dot, and a 3 dot. And it moves forward, and that 1 dot side, 3 dots, 2 dot side. So it's moving and it's getting bigger in space. So then the 2 dot side is now flat on the ground, and the 1 dot is now on the side that the 2 dot was at. And the 3 dot is still visible. We can move things in space, getting bigger as it comes forward. For a cylinder, we can spin it. So say it's like this, and that falls down, and then it starts to spin. Maybe this is the front now, and then it keeps spinning. Oh, maybe like this. We're trying to look at things as though it's moving and try to guess what it looks like in certain positions, and then draw that. And it's, making our minds more elastic and thinking, okay, so if such and such is at a certain distance, how would it look like? Mountains in a distance can look like just triangles. But those are mountains just seen at a distance. Yeah. The horizon line of an ocean is just a straight line. But if you're on the beach, it's like crashing waves, and there could be sea lions and swimmers getting hit and tossed around, and even depending on the weather, it's like, the surf could be really high on a certain day because of effects and time and all that. So yeah, it's all very interesting. It just takes a little bit of work, a little bit of practice, some thought into what we're building upon in our art. And so that was like my drawings, a janky explanation on objects moving in space. Oh, God. And next up, heads and hands. Heads and hands, heads and hands. Okay, so today is a profile day of heads and hands. We've done the straight on view. We've done 3/4 turn to left and right. And so it's time for the profile. Profiles aren't there's less information to record for a profile, because if you look at it, new layer, we're going to do it this time. A lot of what we see is the large circle for the cranium, and then there's a flat, it's not flat, there's a line that goes down the chin, mandible, and the ear this is the auditory canal, right? The ear is just behind the mandible. And why the profile isn't used as often for, let's say, illustrations, or like if you're making anything that moves, anything that shows emotion, is because you can't see exactly what is going on. We want to know what the emotional state of our character is. Are they happy? Are they sad? Are they shocked? And that's harder to do at this angle. But in terms of the head, The hairline would be about here. The brow ridge about here. You notice it comes, the slope of the forehead, it can come inwards, and then it comes out for the nose. And this is the cartilage. So the shape could be large, could be tapered, could be flattened. And then from the nose, it comes down to the lips, lower lip, and then chin. Yeah, but there's less information to be demonstrated to an audience. So it's good for stoic poses, something you can have a smirk or a smile. Maybe the eyes give away something about the character, but for a more focus on the character, we would usually do a 3/4 or some variation of a straight on look. But let's do the other side. Profile looking to screen left. Again, the same as on the left. Now I'm paranoid. So circle for the cranium. Cranium. Where the contains the brain, which is you. Right? All your information is stored here. And then, again, forehead comes in, comes out for the nose bone. This is cartilage. Comes out for the teeth. And then the lower jaw is the mandible. Lower jaw, mandible, comes up. And again, hairline near the top. Eyebrow ridge. The eyes are in the socket. So eye. The nose line is at the bottom of the nasal cavity. The teeth is the mouth. Then the ear is between eye line and the nose, approximately. Some are a little higher, some are a little lower, depending on who the person is. Yeah, not too. Can we do one without? I think we can. New layer. So circle for that very large memory storage called your brain. We have the forehead. It comes inwards for the eyes, comes out for the nasal bone, teeth. And then that's when the mandible, the lower teeth comes in, chin, mandible, back, and ears about between the eye line, eyebrow ridge, hairline, nose, mouth. And that looks very, very bright. A very bright red. Anyways, so that was that. Now let's look at my head. But the same rules apply. It's the two-headed man. And so we have the face and profile. Again, cranium. And the forehead goes in towards the eyes. Out, I'd say the nasal bone stops about here. And then this is cartilage. And then the teeth are below, well, just beneath my lips. Upper, lower, chin, mandible, and comes towards the ear. There's the ear at just about my eye. The eyebrow ridge, whoosh, hairline, whoosh, nose, whoosh, mouth. Yeah, and that is face and profile. Should I do one without? Sure, why not? Let's do it. Okay, once more from the top. Large circle for the cranium. And then we have the forehead comes in for the eyes, nasal bone, Let's say the cartilage makes a nose with one of those tippy tips. And so this is the bottom of the nose. The upper teeth would be just below the lips, lower lips, chin, goes back for the mandible, and then goes into the ear. Easy peasy. Right? That's why I like the profile. It's fairly it's fairly simple. You don't have to think about okay, what kind of emotion am I gonna put on this character? It's like he's just slightly smiling, I guess. Or yeah, the eyebrows. But that is character profiles or people profiles, skull profiles. Next up, hands. Yes, I like this, a bit of a claw, slightly similar to the one I think I did yesterday with the flame palm, but I like the claw. Have the hand, and first, V4 for 40% opacity, new layer, and B for the brush tool. And what do I see? What do I see? I see the thumb part. There is this squashed box. Comes down. So let's say the knuckle of the pinky. We're trying to break things down. And then there's the back part of the hand. Slightly curves. But there's this side plane. And then the digits come off. Radiate off of this flattened box with the fingers slightly curled for some of them. Well, I guess all of them, but not as much as, say, the pinky, ring finger aren't as curled as these two. And the thumb, of course. And that's just a simplified, simple hand. Now let's try to draw it without reference. And I think I'm going to try. Let's turn off the gray. What does it look like? A bit bright. Okay. Let's do this. So we had new layer, B for the brush tool. So we had that little flattened box. Knuckles. There was a bit of a side plane. And then it went down and curved. We had the thumb radiating off that, the index finger, the middle finger, and the ring and pinky were slightly closer together, which tends to happen. Usually your pinky is like your buddy to your ring finger. They kind of do the same. Their finger buddy, I don't. Anyway, we have flesh those out. For the middle finger, give it that. And for the index and the thumb, it's like so. I believe we got fingernails, all that. But that's just details. Details usually I put them on at the end. Don't need to worry about them at the sketch phase usually. But let's bring it back. Right? Not bad. And again, I would usually start with this. Right? Get the ideas out so that you can test things before looking for reference. I just feel like there's a better flow to art if you try it first and then you're like, I like this drawing, so I want something more like this. And once you have that, in your mind, this is what you're going for, then look for reference. Because looking for reference can sometimes be a time sink. And then you're just looking for reference on, ooh, this looks nice. Ooh, this looks nice. Oh, look at that, for hours. And you're like, I should be drawing. That's just me though. So that was hands. heads and hands. Next up, anatomy. Anatomy. Top to bottom, let's run them. Trapezius is the upper shoulder muscle, mostly seen from the back and looks like a diamond or a spear tip on the back, but it's mostly seen from the front on the upper shoulder. Deltoid, shoulder proper. The tricep is on the back of the upper arm. So from the back to the front is tricep, brachialis, which is in green, and the bicep on the front. Now, front to back, it's bicep, brachialis in green, tricep on the back. Brachioradialis in gold is the lower upper arm. Goes from the outside and then comes in towards the thumb. Then there are a bunch of extensors and flexor muscles. See Wednesdays we had a more comprehensive breakdown of the arm. Was it Wednesday or Tuesday? One of those. But this is just the basics. So extensors and flexors that help move your hands and fingers, your wrist, hands, fingers, all that. On the trunk, we have the pectoralis, which is a large flat muscle. And its borders are the clavicle, which is this, it goes across your body. The sternum, which goes down, kind of makes a T shape. Clavicle, sternum. Clavicle, sternum, goes across the upper rib and then tucks into your upper arm. Clavicle, sternum, across the ribs into the upper arm. The latissimus dorsi on the back, mostly on the back, but wraps towards the front, and it can sometimes slightly be seen about the bottom of the ribs. But the external obliques connect the lower ribs to your pelvic wings, and I call them the love handles. But those are external obliques. The rectus abdominis, the six-pack, there's an upper and a lower. The six-pack is for the upper. Usually the dividing line is about the belly button or just below it. And then there's the lower part that goes down and connects into your pelvic region. The gracilis is a inner thigh muscle. The adductor longus, again, another inner thigh that comes out, it's coming towards the middle. The sartorius comes from the hip of the pelvic wing, right, the outside of your hip, and wraps inside towards the inner knee. The rectus femoris is the center of your thigh. The vastus lateralis on the outside of your thigh. The patella is your kneecap, and the patellar tendon goes from the patella towards your ankle. The gastrocnemius, or the calf muscle, is seen mostly from the inside of your calf, but there is a part that's not seen from the front. There's like two heads of the calf muscle. The gastrocnemius. The anterior tibialis, the tibia is a larger, this bone, the bigger and sturdier of the two in your lower leg. The tibialis, anterior tibialis, is just outside of the patellar tendon. The fibularis, which is the femur muscle. Femur is a support bone on the outside of your lower leg. Fibularis longus is on the outside of your lower leg. And the extensor digitorum longus is between the anterior tibialis and the fibularis longus. So now let's look at some mannequins. What mannequin are we doing today? Is it you? I think it is. What do we have in this one? Yeah. We're going to map, using simple shapes, a representation of this mannequin. And then after that, we'll map the muscles B for the brush tool. So circle for the head to emulate that cranium, that very large, that very large processing unit that you got. You got the face proper, the mandible, the neck. The rib cage is an egg shape or a modified circle. The hips is the box, and there is some contrapposto, if you can see it. This is his dominant leg. So we'll give this a slight side plane. Just very slight. We're seeing it mostly from the front, but I just like to distinguish that a little bit. And that's the box. And then the joints are circles. So we have the deltoid circle, elbows, circles, wrists, circles, knees, and ankles. And then we connect those with cylinders. Cylinders everywhere for your limbs. And let's give this guy some feet. And hands. And that is the mannequin, posed with simple shapes. Well, simple and complex shapes. And now let's try muscle mapping. But we're going to turn off the muscles. See if I can get it in one shot. So new layer. Again, we always start. Well, I usually always start with the circle for the head. Even just for placement. Just to know where, okay, a figure is going to be here. A starting point. Okay, face, the mandible. It comes down to the oval. Got the neck. We have the trapezius of the upper shoulder. And the clavicle, sternum, clavicle, sternum. And the border of that is the pectoralis, which comes across the upper rib cage and into, right, clavicle, sternum, across your upper rib cage and tucks into your upper arm. The deltoid, shoulder muscle of your upper arm, you have the bicep in the front, the brachialis, and the tricep on the back. Bicep, brachialis, tricep on the back. The radiobrachialis comes from the outside of the lower part of your upper arm, out and comes towards your thumb, out and towards the thumb. Radiobrachialis. There's extensors and flexors of your forearm that moves your hands in all the varied positions. The latissimus dorsi on the back, but wrapping towards the front. And then we have the external obliques coming from the lower rib cage to the pelvic wings. Attachments, the love handles. We have the rectus abdominis, the six-pack. Upper, here's the belly button, and lower, going into the pelvic bones. We have the serratus anterior, which are muscles that follow much like your rib cage. It's like a lightning bolt. There's about 3 of them. That's how I usually remember. The gracilis of the inner thigh. Gracilis. Inner thigh. Adductor longus, coming from the inner towards the middle. The sartorius, coming from the outside hip of the pelvic wing and wraps across the thigh and into your your knee. Across the thigh to the inside of your knee, like that. We have the rectus femoris, which is in the middle of your thigh. Rectus femoris. We have the, come on Trey, you know this, the vastus lateralis. The vastus lateralis on the outside. There's a vastus intermedialis in the middle, underneath the rectus femoris, and the vastus medialis in the middle part, the middle of the body of your thigh. Not the middle, but the middle portion of your upper. We have the patella. Patella, the patellar tendon coming down towards your ankle. Patellar tendon. Just on the outside is the tibialis anterior. The tibialis anterior. We have the fibularis longus on the outside. Fibularis longus. And the extensor digitorum longus is between the two, the tibialis anterior and the fibularis longus. And then on the inside of the calf is the gastrocnemius. And those are the muscles. And I believe I did it. But this is just the simplified version. There's a whole bunch of other muscles that there's a lot. And sometimes it can be confusing. So I try to boil it down to just mostly the ones that you can see on the human form. Like if you're looking at a nude study or statuary, which is what we're going to do right now. Statuary is statuary. Not that one. Here we go. This is day 2 of Hercules. And again, we know it's Hercules by the club and the skin of the Nemean lion, which is said to be invincible. The skin cannot be penetrated by spears and knives, so he used to wear it into battle and use his club to knock things in the head. A demigod. Hercules. Okay, so again, we're going to map it just like the mannequin. First, we're going to do shapes. So new layer. And again, circle for that cranium. Just to lay down a line and figure out where I'm going next. The head extends down into an oval with the mandible. The neck. This boy is thick. We got the rib cage as an egg shape. The hips. Okay. This is also fairly straight, but I think there's a bit of a side plane here and that box for the hip. And there's that contrapposto. He's got that. Whoop. Right, dominant leg, hip. So usually I look at the hip tilt. This is that hip tilt. This is the shoulder tilt. It makes it more dynamic. So we got the hips as a box. And then we do the joints as circles. So we got the shoulder joint, shoulder muscle, deltoid, elbow, wrists, knees, and ankles. And then we connect those with cylinders. Some could say they're just lines, but I call them cylinders. I'm completing things in my mind, I guess. So that, cylinders. Let's put some feet on this man. Can't forget that. And hands. And that is Hercules in posed, simple shape form. So again, muscle time. Oh, help you see the thing. And we will turn off the layer because I think we got it, right? Hopefully I don't flub it. Okay, so again, circle, just to get that head a place to start from. You usually start with the head. The mandible, it makes an oval shape. The neck, the upper shoulder that can be seen from the front is the trapezius, which makes a diamond shape, but that's on the back. I think it's like, anyways, trapezius, shoulder. We have the clavicle, sternum. And what borders that? Clavicle, sternum. Pectoralis comes across the upper rib cage into the upper arm. Clavicle, sternum, cross the upper rib cage into the upper arm. We have the deltoid of the shoulder. Of the arm, we have the bicep, the brachialis, tricep on the back. Bicep, brachialis, tricep on the back. We have the radiobrachialis that comes across. You can kind of see it here towards the thumb. Can't quite see it here, but it would come from the outside towards the thumb. Then we have extensors and flexors, help us move our hands, wrist, fingers, all of that goodness. We have the latissimus dorsi from the back coming towards the front. The external obliques from the lower rib cage and connecting to your upper pelvic wings. Oh, the pelvic wings, the love handles, and this man's got them, right? We have the rectus abdominis. As you can see, here's his belly button. Upper and then lower, going into the pelvic region. We have the serratus anterior, which looks like, mimics to me the rib cage, and it's like like the bolt of Zeus, which he is not. He's a sun. It's the box for the hips. We have that contrapposto, dominant leg, holding most of his weight. He's got that hip lean, shoulder lean, and I'm not going to sing. Okay, so for the legs, we have the gracilis for the inner thigh. Gracilis, you can see it, yeah. We have the adductor longus coming towards the middle of your thigh. We have the sartorius coming from the hip, outside hip, and comes across the thigh towards the inner, attaching towards the inner part of your thigh, at the knee, right? So outer hip comes across into the knee region. We have the rectus femoris in the middle of the thigh. The rectus femoris. We have the vastus lateralis. Almost got it. Vastus lateralis. Vastus intermedialis is in the middle, underneath the rectus femoris, and the vastus medialis is on the inside of your thigh. The patella, the kneecap. The patellar tendon goes towards the ankle from the kneecap. Just outside of that, on the outside of the body, is the tibialis anterior. The tibialis anterior. And on the outside of your lower leg is the fibularis longus. Fibularis longus. On the inside, you have the gastrocnemius. It's called the calf. There's two heads of the calf. One can't be seen from the front, but the inside part can be. And extensor digitorum longus is between the tibialis anterior and the fibularis longus. Yeah, buddy. I am feeling pretty good about myself right now. I did it twice. Nice, nice, nice. And so that is Hercules done, mapped with the muscles. Nicely done. And I think, again, I swear by this, that studying statuary, because it is a form in space where light is hitting it, is a great way to study anatomy. Because back in the day, they have, well, they're mostly nude. I had to cover up his bits and whatnot, and you can see the muscle definition, the posing, the muscles. It's right all there. And so, as an art student, they had us go to museums and do this a lot. And it just became sort of a cool habit for myself because I like statues and looking at them. But that is statuary. Now let's look at some more in-depth anatomy of hands and feet. Bonus round of anatomy, we have the foot. And right now we're looking at the bones of the feet. The blue one is the tibialis, the tibia and the fibula, which is support. And so let's look at this foot. We have the calcaneus, the heel, in a light blue. The talus in yellow, which is being held by the tibia and fibula. The tib fib. We have the navicular, which is in gold. Now this is the start of the tarsals. The tarsals are all within this. Yep. All these colors are the tarsals. And then we have metatarsals and phalanges. So the tarsals, we have the navicular in yellow, the cuboid in blue, talus in yellow, navicular in gold. These five. Come on, get it together, Trey. Navicular in gold, cuboid in blue, lateral cuneiform in a sea green, middle cuneiform, although it looks more to me like, anyways, middle cuneiform in a light green, and medial cuneiform, moss green. Yes, the tarsals. The tarsal fives, let's call them. Yeah, the tarsal five. That doesn't make any sense. But tarsal fives is this. Then we get to the metatarsals, which are elongated, right? But they are singular bones of the feet. And the phalanges, they're the proximal phalange. What is it? I think. Yeah, proximal phalange, middle phalange, of which there are 4. And then the distal phalange. But those are the bones of your foot. So let's look at the foot muscles, of which there's some interesting ones. A lot of them that continue on from the lower leg. I was going to say upper leg. So we have in light blue, the tendons and retinaculum, which holds things together. Right? A lot of support things that are held together and bound together so that things don't go off and do their own thing, which would not be good for walking and all of that. But we have the muscles. The tendocalcanea is the Achilles tendon, right? That on the back. The fibularis longus in green continues, right, from the lower leg down and inserts in the foot. The fibularis brevis in a lighter green also does the same, goes from the lower leg and down into the foot. The fibularis tertius in purple, right, at the lower leg into the foot on the upper part. It's in purple. The tibialis anterior in blue, right, continues down from just to the outside of the patellar tendon and comes down and goes into the foot. The extensor digitorum longus, this is a lot of like the forearm, a lot of the extensors and all of that. Extensor digitorum longus in orange, it comes from the lower leg and splits and goes into work these digits, right? So the extensor hallucis longus in a light orangey red, again, comes from the lower leg down into the foot and goes more towards the big toe. The extensor digitorum brevis, which is split into extensor digitorum brevis and extensor hallucis brevis in a light yellow and a greenish yellow, are these that also split, where the extensor hallucis brevis goes into the big toe, while the extensor digitorum brevis goes into the piggies, or the other digits. Let's not be childish, Trey. And that are the muscles of the feet. Now let's look at the hands. Now, as for hands, we're going to look at the hand bones first, and then move on to the muscles. So there are a lot of bones in the hands, but much like the feet, there are groupings that are that you get kind of used to, like the phalanges and metacarpals. But let's start with, there's a palm side, your palm facing up, and then the backhand side. And the radius and ulna, the ulna, pink and green. And the radius and ulna are different in that at the hand connection, the wrist, the ulna gets smaller while the radius gets bigger as it connects to the wrist, which is unusual, but kind of cool. But we have all these little bones at the base near where the wrist is. And those are the carpals. And the carpals, the scaphoid in rose color, the lunate in pink, a dark pink lunate. I'm gonna push all these. Trapezium, not trapezium, but trapezium, and a fuchsia. Trapezoid in a blue. Capitate in light green. Hamate in yellow green. And I don't even know what this word is. Triquetril, man, these words. Triquetril in blah 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 blah. Triquetril in a light orange. And those are the carpals, much like the foot. Right? They're a grouping of small bones. Now, at the metacarpals, long singular bones, right, in purple, it takes up most of your hand. And then we come to the phalanges. And then again, like the feet, we have the proximal phalange in a light purple. Proximal phalanges. The middle phalange is just as it is in the middle. And then the distal phalange in bright orange, your fingertips, are the distal phalanges. And so that is your hand. Well, the hand bones. Let's look at muscles. All right, so now for the muscles of the hand, we have, well, we'll do the muscles first, and then we'll do the ligaments and retinaculum. So first off, I think we're starting from the palm side, going from screen right to screen left. So this way. We have the Alpens pollicis in purple, right, coming toward the thumb. We have the abductor pollicis brevis in green, the flexor pollicis brevis in light orange. We have the limbricals in this very bright orange that connects to each of the fingers, the 4 fingers. The thumb has its own set of muscles going on, right? But the limbricals go to the digits other than the thumb. The flexor digiti minimi brevis in purple goes towards the pinky. The abductor digiti minimi in a wine color or burgundy, right, from the wrist towards also outside of the hand, the pinky side. The palmaris brevis in green from about the wrist, also going towards the pinky. Now those are the muscles of your hands, but there are a lot of tendons. So we have ligaments and retinaculum all over the hand because it binds it all together, right? And it gives you that flexibility. The ligaments, that pull and extension. It's crazy. All that for your fingers. And so that was a brief study of hands and feet, or a bonus round, I guess. Now let's move on to gesture. So gestures to me are a starting point for something else. I usually make a lot of small drawings in this case, a pen. I think it's just a pen that was dying on me, and I think with brush pen or something. And I just took that and made these little doodles, just testing out a character. This is Lore the Silverhand, and he's a mercenary, a wandering swordsman type. And I like doing these small studies just to get an idea of something that I could work on. So, say for this one, this started as this. So there's just a small, nondescript, I was like, I like that pose. And that I worked up to this. So it was a stepping stone. Another example is, say, this central image of him holding a sword I got from here. Same pose, sword across his shoulder. All right, it's just an idea that I can then flesh out. So they're not too involved. They're not supposed to cause you any stress. They're just get your ideas out, get the ideas flowing. And so another one is this one on the far left with a disheveled Lore with a hand chained around his neck. I liked that idea. And then so I developed it last year. From that to, this was the initial concept. This I worked up and then added an idea on lighting. How am I going to compose this whole thing? Was it going to be close up or at a distance? Can you get the full body? I decided to go with the full body. And then ideas that could surround the central character. So from this small sketch, I worked it up to this. And then this is the sketch form, where it has the central idea, Lore, with the hand chained around his neck. And then the ideas behind the concepts behind him, work that up. And then this is the final in inks. So it takes a small idea that you can work up to something else. something amazing. So I've heard someone say that ideas are cheap. So just get your ideas out and then select from those ideas the best one that you can then work up to something grand. Right? So that is my idea and process for gestures. So let's draw some gestures, shall we? All right, so early in the week I talked about how sports are a great thing to do gestures from, because these are athletes in peak performance within their realm, whichever sport they play. And usually the action is much more dramatic and dynamic. And that's a great way to study from. So I have Google, I typed in baseball, and we're going to do some gestures on baseball. So for example, I'll look at this, a player hitting a ball, that action. I like that. So let's make some gestures based off of that. So I have new layer. And so B for the brush tool, and let's work this up. And again, they're not precious. You don't have to labor over them. But I usually start with the head, just as placement. And then maybe do some shoulder, rib cage, hip. And then the limbs, I work up, because we're just trying to get ideas. And then we can work on those ideas to make better ideas once we find something that we like. He's got the bat and the ball is flying. And that, right, is just the briefest, bare bones concept of what I'm thinking of. Right? It's not spectacular, but you can always flesh it out if you find something that you like. And most times you just move on and go, I think I could do better. And then find another, if you really wanted a person hitting a ball, or you can try to figure out ways to increase the dynamics. Right? What I like about this is that all the limbs are away from each other. That silhouette is strong. So I try to look for, and if I can get it, strong silhouettes. And a silhouette is, if you fill it all in, you could still tell what was being done, what action is being, what activity he is doing, even if you cover it. And that's what I look for. So that's, right. You don't have to get precious. We're just moving and grooving. What else? There's a guy hitting a ball, but I think we can do better. I think a person in mid, right? This is nice, but this is better. Because he's moving. Ooh, that pitching was good. Can we get a full body? But I like that. A pitching pose. And sometimes you can even just go to a baseball game and bring a sketchbook, and whenever you feel the inclination, you can start sketching. I used to do that also in college, because college sports is also another pretty good way to practice what you're learning. I like that. Sketchy as all heck, but I like that. Right, let's look for some more. But any activity that gets your body involved, whether it's dance or sports, what else? Sports is a great one, because there's so many different activities. And if you can find somebody in peak performance, say of swimmers, of dancers, say ballet is great. I like that. So let's do that one of a guy, because his whole body's into it. I like right here. The whole body's into it. And that might be one of the reasons why we like sports, people in their top peak physical performance doing activities that can sometimes look amazing. And that ball is just over his foot, but he threw that. So any sport, a sport that you like, even better, because you'll want to look at the dynamics of, right? Some sports you're like, I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. Why? Those might not be the sports for you to draw. But find a sport that you like and then go in. Like, try to figure out what are the mechanics. Why do mostly the people hitting the ball, it's the same type of motion? Ooh, that's a nice one, right? I'm finding a lot of nice ones. So yeah, find a sport you like, look at some images, and then go to town. Just because sometimes their bodies move in a way that doesn't seem real. It's like that. A body can't move like that, right? It's like, yeah. If you're at the top of your game, it certainly can. And the dynamics, the drama, the winning, the losing, all of it can come together to make something pretty impressive, right? That's what else we got. That's an interesting one. But yeah, ooh, look at that. And there's sometimes even a flow. That's a good one too. Let's do this guy first. Sometimes you can even feel like that flow, like swoosh. There's this is about to come forward. This is his legs planted. You can feel that energy build up and then swoosh. Sometimes you can't quite explain it, but you can feel it. Feel it. But yeah. You can spend, like, if you like sports and you're watching sports, sit down with a sketchbook and just go to town on it. Like, whatever you see, if you can capture it in your mind and you can try to draw it, but you gotta be quick. You gotta be quick. Look at that. Right? That's not even an exact representation, but I like this energy. And that is what I want, that energy. I can feel it. That's nice. But yeah, ooh, there's another. And you can see similarities, right? This is a different person pitching a ball, but there's a lot of mechanics that are the same. It's like a different part in time because the ball is closer to his head. You got that shoulders, you got the leg distance apart. He's got that planted, right? That back foot. I mean, the heel is on the ground. His bat foot is extended, and this arm isn't. Right? Who moves like that? It's like, and a lot of this you wouldn't even see because they're moving at speeds. Right? When we're doing running, that's a good pose. Yeah. Sports, great way. Ooh, nice. That's a nice angle. It is a great way to learn and practice gesture. Hips, leg, forward, leg back, foot angle. But that overall, look at that. Crazy. You know what his main focus is. It's all here. I like it. So yeah, anything else? Let's try to do one more. I like that one. So I like that one. I also like this one. This one, pre-action. Right, there are moments in time in sports that are cool to capture. It's like just before a hit, at point of contact, or like when a pitcher's just about to get into his motion, right? That the drama is there. So that's cool. And if what we want is action and drama and something that makes somebody go, okay, that's cool. I like that. His body comes in and then out for that hip. It's like, he's ready. I'm ready, man. I'm going to smack this ball into next year. Right, that's, yeah. So if you can practice with, right, he's ready. Yeah, man. I like that. So yes, that is gesture for today. Baseball. Look at that. I like all of them. If you wanted to work up to a final illustration in anything, using a player that you like, right? This is a great way to study gesture by doing all this. So let's look at the schedule, because I believe that's it. Today was Thursday, the 30th of January, and we did shapes. Not very well, but we did them. Shapes, heads and hands, mannequin, anatomy, sculpture, bonus anatomy, and then gesture with baseball. Tomorrow is the last day, and tomorrow we're going to go back into what we did for week 1, which is the very basic baseline workout. Right? It's what I always return to, or I'm going to get started again, what I return to, the baseline. So we're going to do that tomorrow. And then at the end, I'll talk about a postmortem on this and ideas for varying levels of younger artists who want to get better. So that will be tomorrow, the last day of January. Can you believe that? Wow. So I have been Trey. You can find my work at treyhodges.com. Thank you for joining me. Power to all the creators. And I will see you on the next episode. Take care. Keep shining. Bye.